Yeah. So, good afternoon, guys. I hope that you're doing well in your homes and you're biding your time in doing something productive. So, let me tell you something about Astrosonic that we have been working on since about 2 months from now. And next slide, Ankit. Yeah. So we are a budding open source community about we have dreams and we have nothing but computing devices. So there's nothing between our dreams and our competency with coding or developing and stuff that can stop us from building good stuff. But the thing that always kind of acts as an obstacle is that we have less people. We have good ideas, we can implement things, but at some point of time what we think is now just because we have too many assignments or there are too many commitments to think about, there's this gate exam that I need to give and stuff, so you just let it all go, right? So this should not happen. If you have a good idea, it should stay, not for you but for the people who have contributed to it as well, right? Just think about that how good your idea can be when it reaches out to the general public. So what we are trying to do is we are building an open source community so that people can come together, they can contribute, they can build stuff if they know coding. If they don't know coding, very good. You can also contribute in design, you can contribute in documentation, you can also contribute in outreach. There's stuff to do, there's tons of stuff to do collaboratively. That is what our motto is. Next slide, Ankit. So why exactly are we talking about open source? Because we can pretty much do things by our own. We can start up a company and we can earn with this initiative. But why exactly are we so inclined with open source? Now, just imagine that you have written something by yourself and you're so confident about it that you can pretty much go out there, you can post this stuff on popular forums like dev.to, Reddit, Medium, etc. And you can challenge stuff that, yeah, I actually know stuff. I can actually make things out of it that can come to people's help. And you're willing to face criticisms about it, in a positive sense, that if something is really wrong with your code, you're willing to make changes to it. That spirit is about open source. And it's all transparent. So if you build an application, a chat application, it has vulnerabilities, it's visible to people, and it is an indicator that you should work on your code. It's not like that Facebook has been hiding stuff about storing passwords in plain text and that has discovered in 2007. That is proprietary. People don't know about it and there's no transparency. While it is a different story about us. And if people want to make different things from your code, they can do that. They can extend your code and make their own. So it's all about bright ideas and collaboration. So in the next slides, we'll be talking about the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats analysis about open source. So the strengths of open source is the fact that it has open code base. People can come together and work. They can work across technologies. They are not limited to a single stuff. Like if someone knows Python, he is only limited to Python. That's not going to happen. There's always a community interaction. You get to meet people of your domain. It might not be your domain, but it might be something that you would be looking for. And the contributions that you make is always trackable. While the weakness lies in the poor sense of handling deadlines. Just because open source does not pay you money, so people are not much inclined to do work. So it might happen that you set deadlines and the deadlines go by and the work is not done. Plus, there is no monetary advantage. It might look difficult to start with. People think that, yeah, open source is a big stuff, so it might be a difficult stuff to get into. Also, there's a poor corporate hierarchy. There are no leaders here per se. No one here claims that he knows better than you. There's always something to give. Like, if someone knows something, the other one knows something else, and you both can help each other out. And also, there is an inconsistent contributions. So, how we can convert these trends that we talked about into opportunities? So just because the code base is open, people actually know what they're getting into. So there is total transparency. Even the users, even if they are not very code literate, they can also know about stuff. Also, when you collaborate, you bring the best out of everyone's code. You make pull requests, and then it's being verified, and then there are people with suggestions that this can be added, this can be improved upon. So you can always improve your code, and there are limitless domains you can go into when you are working at cross technology open source projects. And with community interactions, with working with people who actually are belonging to different domains, you can always get to learn new stuff. There is always someone who has shortcuts up their sleeves, they have better way of doing things. You'll always get to meet those people in a community. And then you have a documented experience. That is, you get to know that what exactly did you contribute and how much did you contribute to that project. Moving on to the threats that might come across due to the weaknesses. The thing is, if we don't have deadlines, if we don't quite compel on stuff, we can have projects that are dormant. Like, for example, if you have a project on your GitHub that you uploaded in late 2016, it has been good at that time, people have been applauding it, but now it's just dormant. It's not maintained anymore. It's not like that it does not have a scope right now, but you just not work able to give time to it. So when you are not having deadlines, you can come across this situation when the projects go dormant. And just because you don't have any monetary advantage, there's pretty less incentive for people to work. I mean, there are people who don't require money, they're all in for the experience and for collaboration and doing good stuff, but money also plays a big role. And while it looks difficult to people, so people will be less occupied, they will always have complaints that just I don't understand how to make commits and stuff. So it's always a bit difficult to get into open source. And just because we don't have hierarchy, so there is no one to control, and it's difficult to keep track of changes when there are inconsistent contributions. Next slide. So the existing open source communities like those of the Fedora project and stuff, they have a kind of monotonous way of contributions. Like, if they have built some stuff and they had been doing it since long, then they would be the ones who will tell you what to do. And if you are to join it at later stages, then you're kind of compelled to do what you're asked to. I mean, you can only drive the car, but you cannot quite decide where that car would go. You can't quite decide the direction of the car. So that is not fun. But over here, things are different. We're kind of giving you different divisions to work on. And that is entirely based on what you're good at. So there are a total of 7 divisions to work on. And if you have that skills and expertise that that division asks for, you can pretty much get into it. Now, it may happen that people are actually good in multiple divisions, so they can pretty much get into that stuff, and we totally agree with that. But if you are leading a division, would strongly recommend that stay in a single division so that you can pay more focus to that. Next slide. So here are the divisions that I was talking about. It begins from architecture, designing stuff and designing how the things would work. Development is all about writing good lines of codes and getting your logic right every single time. Design is making things way better than they are right now in the terms of their work. Front end is all about how things look. Service is all about fixing bugs. The projects that are in existence, they should be tested, they should be optimized. The service handles that. And documentation is all about making sure that people actually understand what you're doing. So you just got to pick what you're good at. And then finally, we have another division that is not listed over here, that is outreach. Now, outreach is one of the most important divisions that I consider right now, just because it actually makes a community have its namesake. It gets more people to work with, it gets more people to collaborate with. So, outreach is another division. Next slide. Ankit? Yep. So, what exactly is our community's workflow? We distinctly follow two different types of workflow that we'll be discussing about in the next slides. Move on, Ankit. Okay, so we have two distinct workflows to work with. Now, companies, as compared to companies that they have, dedicated deliverables that should be made within a given time. So we have release workflow for that. Now, this workflow has a larger scope and it has a definite deadline to meet. Now, if you contribute to this, it can be a bit difficult for you to do so. But then again, if you do so, it adds a great amount of experience to you. But in minimum, it requires a total of like 5 contributions per week in a project, and you would have complete control of what you're doing. In terms of rolling workflow, it has smaller scope and indefinite deadlines, so you can keep it at the backlog. You can do whenever you want, but just like it, just how lenient it is, you're kind of in a disadvantage here, just because there's not much to learn over here. It is having an okayish quantitative value, and lesser contributions is required from your end. So it's not much adding. It's not much taking from you as well. It's for those who can't dedicate their time just because they're busy, so they can contribute in this way. Next slide. Now, one of the core members, Mohit, will explain stuff about the problem statements that we have been working on and that need help. Mohit, you can take over. Ankit, is Mohit there in the call?
Yeah, actually, Mohit is missing. I'll
All right.
contact it.
Okay, so Mahej, would you continue?
Okay, sure.
Yup. So Mahej, introduce yourself first.
Yeah, actually, this part belongs to Mohit, but I'll explain it. My name is Mahich, and I go as Khalnak in this astrosonic community. So before starting this community, we actually had some quite projects in our hand, and those are interesting till now. I mean, okay, okay. It seems Mohit is with us. I'll let Mohit continue.
Mohit, it's your turn to speak right now.
I think
I,
he left.
yeah. Okay, never mind. I'll finish this part. Yeah. So speaking of the problem statements that we had when we started Astrosonic, they are still interesting, and we need your help in order to make this project from great to awesome. The groundwork is also laid, but you can pretty much start up from the scratch just by looking at the problem statement and your own logical way of tackling it. So Ankit, next slide. Yeah, so these are the current projects that are live on Astrosonic. So I guess Akashdeep, why don't you tell about Sanctuary? I'll tell about the feast.
Got it. So, guys, we have been working on these 3 projects so far, and Sanctuary is a synchronous, lightweight chat room with zero logging. So it's just like Telegram, but it is much more like, it's like 100 times more secure than Telegram, just for the fact that none of the chats are actually persisting. All you need to do is, press refresh or leave the chat room, and all the chats that you have done so far will get destroyed. And this is required when, for test cases, like for use cases like when you are working in a company and suppose you have been threatened by some of the superiors. So what you to do? So you need to make sure that your identity does not go out, right? Because it can kind of mess with your career. So in order to do so, you need to maintain anonymity. This is what is the key factors of Sanctuary. So what it does is it allows you to create a chat room, and then you can share the key to anyone whom you want to communicate with. So once a chat room is created, once the key is being sent, all you need to do is get yourself an alias, a false identity. So once you get it, all you need to do is talk, and if you think you're compromised, just leave the window, just close the window, just leave the chat room. and anything that you have done so far will get destroyed from both the ends, from all the ends basically. Just because it's a chat room, multiple participants can be there, it will all be get destroyed from all the ends. So this is what we've been working on, total transients. The next is about Forge. Now, Forge is it's an acronym for Forensics Oriented Reporting Group under encryption. It's a directive sharing network. Now, it is mainly dedicated to police and how they share evidences across the internet. Now, as you know, that if the criminals are very high profile, they can pretty much hack into your servers and take away your data. In order for that to not happen, we have created a forensics report sharing network which has in support for web application and REST API. Now you can even use this application from command line interface. It is that scalable. I mean, even if you don't have a browser, if you even if you don't have an application to run it, it's fine. Just fire up a browser. There are a couple of commands that you need to follow, and you'll get into the network, and you can pretty much access everything from that, all evidences and every stuff. So this are the two network-based and security-based projects that we have been working on so far. The third is a deep learning project that will be explained by Mohit if he's here, or Mahij.
Hello, am I audible? Akash, if you could confirm.
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah,
Introduce
audible.
yourself and continue.
Okay, so now next project is FEAST, which is an acronym for Feature Extraction and Superimposition Technology. It's a cross-domain project of deep learning and augmented reality. So if you are basically interested in any of this topic, you can pay a visit to our GitHub. It is there. So I will tell you in brief. So basically what we do is we obtain the high level features, extract high level features from images, and we can then use augmented reality to superimpose various accessories over them. Like we can like just like Snapchat filter. So we are trying to do it, and if you want to if you want to join us, you can definitely pay a visit. And there are some other projects that are there on our GitHub organization profile. So that is Bazooka Share, image augmentation, and OCR app. There is community website also. So if anyone is interested in basically creating websites, they can surely check it out. And then there is contributors manual. So if you have any suggestions for our community, we can discuss it over our Slack channel. And if your suggestions are really good, we will then accommodate them in our contributors manual. And now I'm handing over to Mahesh. He will explain you some of the project ideas that we are having but not yet implemented.
Hello again, Mahij here. Uh, I'm a kind of a deep learning enthusiast. I'm so fascinated by how the deep learning works and how deep learning has affected the AI industry all over. So I was just wondering about how deep learning can be used in day-to-day lives, and came up with some problem statements that are quite interesting. The I have a couple of them right now on this slide, but there are many more to come in the future. It just needs some polishing to make sure that it is solvable and ready to implement. So the first one I'd like to tell is the dynamic traffic signals. Have you ever like stuck in a signal where you see that the other lane's vacant and the other lane's go signal has been turned on? I mean, like the signal where the lane is empty is giving chance to go while the crowded lanes get stuck. So you see the signals have a static timing in them. These timing are set according to whatever the active hours there at that time persisted. So if you see like if the signal was set at the time 1 year ago, so that signal would totally fail at the active hours today. So we need some kind of signals that would know dynamically that which lane has the most traffic and which lane has the least. And by that, it can solve the traffic jams and allow faster transportation. You see, that's the basic job of what a traffic police officer does during high traffic jams. He just suggests which lane to go and which lane to stop. So instead of a manual work, why don't we automate this with artificial intelligence? So in this deep learning is, I mean, I'm suggesting deep learning because you see, we'll get the input from the camera or whatever the input signals, that input sensor that we can brainstorm later, and then processing on that could be quite easy. So we can brainstorm on the overall architecture and overall distribution of computation of this later. But just to brief with you with the problem, that was the my main intention. Also, you can see that whenever an ambulance wants to cross a crowded area, which is traffic jam, it won't be able to unless and until there is a traffic police officer to handle it. So we can also embed this problem in the dynamic traffic signals that we propose, so that overall the whole traffic signals and traffic congestion problem can be solved just by one AI that is powered by deep learning. So this was one of the problem statement. Yeah, you can see there that it is means that static traffic signals are like the pain, are like so painy. It pains me to see that the other lane are going free while I'm just stuck here for the 2 minutes in the crowded lane. So next slide, Ankit. Yeah. So this would be the objectives of the problem statement of dynamic traffic lights. We need to make sure that the model is able to understand the active hour awareness, so that it should know at what time we are expecting heavy crowd of vehicles and what time, and in which lane are the vehicles means expected. And also emergency detection like ambulance or a police vehicle, that can be detected here, and make sure that their way is clear. So we can also in future, if this is implemented, we can also embed the fact that some two-wheeler riders which do not wear helmets can be detected using this system. I know there is an existing system for the helmet detection, but I have seen in quite many police stations that they are manually checking for them. There is a no automated system for helmet detection in India today. So we can solve that by using a simple solution by making an AI powered deep learning powered AI, and we can set up on the signals. And what I am planning to think is like, what if we connect these independent signals together to make up a node in a graph? How cool would that we be if we know that this signal is now green, and after 5 seconds that signal will be green, so that I can schedule my route like that. So now Google Maps, what it does is like it does routing via live parameters. But I know that signals will be on after that much time, and there will be no traffic after that much time. So I can dynamically predict my route and choose the perfect one, which is the fastest of them. So this is the future of this problem statement. Uh, Next slide. Yeah, this one is also an interesting one. Augmented reality navigation system. Have you guys played video games? For example, Need for Speed, Dead Space. Yeah, in that games, what navigation system was like? Consider you were really playing that game, and the road was highlighted with the path you want to go. What if we embedded that in the camera, and using AR, we highlight which path to go? For navigation system today, what Google offers is like, there is a overview of the map, and it shows which path to take. And if you go in real view, it will just suggest where are you under means what is your location and where are you expected to go. But what if like suppose for example, I want to go from one square to another, but I don't know the specific route to that. So I can just on this application check out my surrounding using the camera, and then the camera would detect the key points that would be easy, that would make easy for routing. So it will suggest like take a right after that tree, and after taking that right, go straight, and after encountering this pole or whatever the concrete object that would stay there indefinitely, after encountering that object, turn to whatever direction that is needed. So this is what I hope we could achieve in augmented reality. So you see that Google also announced that it would be doing something same with their navigation system. So I thought, why don't we open source community do the same, use our own brains, and make sure that this solution is so integrable that even the easiest application, Android application, can use this. So if you want, it can be implemented in like the food services, the apps like Food Panda and all, where the user can show that after encountering this object, why don't you come in this direction? This is where my house is. So you don't have to constantly encounter the call like, sir, I am under your buildings, but I don't know where your location is. So can you please come here and pick up the food or whatever that is? You can just share your path by using this navigation system, and then he'll be automatically know that, yeah, I just have to follow this and I'll get right to where my user wants. So this is what uh, I believe we can achieve using augmented reality. Ankit, next slide. Yeah. So that were all the two problem statements that we have currently open right now, and don't worry, we are having a quite few problem statements coming in the future. So just a reminder, don't you don't need to know deep learning in deep right now. Yeah, you can just learn on the go, or you can take help of the community. So I'll hand over to Ankit right now.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Actually, good evening, everyone. If there are some background noises, I'm very sorry. But now about the operation and regulations. First of all, we will communicate through our Slack till 3 p.m. Who have registered their form are being invited to Slack, and we will do for members who have just registered right now. Now about the operations, there will be repos of the projects in at our GitHub Astrosonic GitHub organization, and in that you can fork the project and start working on it and submit your ideas. If someone wants to start a new project, you can contact the core team for it, so we can create a project and um, give you a higher authority to control that project, as you would be you want to lead that project. Now mainly we want you right now to start communicating on Slack, just to know each other and get to know others for working with each other. Now, the main thing is we will be providing the license and regulations to all the projects, and the work you have done will be credited to you. It wouldn't be like that if you're working on something and you are not credited. That will be made sure by the core members. And there are actually many regulations. If I would start stating them one by one, it would take around a half an hour. So I would also like you to go through our regulations and documentation about the Astrosonic. But that's the core idea, and the main thing is you can contribute whatever you want to, and it isn't like that you have to be an active member. You can contribute, you can sometimes stay inactive, but again come and contribute to certain topics. And there is no such thing that you should do. You means if you're working on a deep learning project or a cyber security project, it shouldn't be like that. You should know that topic. You can learn on the go. And personally, I think that learning on the go while doing a project is a better thing, because you will know why you're doing this, and you know practically why to do this, or it will be a thing where you are interested, where you are looking up and learning by yourself, and you will remember it. Now that's all about operations, and soon we will add everyone and start meetings on Slacks and all, and there will be announcements and everything. Um, yeah, uh, that's
So,
all.
Ankit, yeah. So, guys, you can unmute yourself if you have questions.
Or you can at least introduce yourself to others if you want to.
Yeah, so we can pretty much, allot you to the project that you are looking for.
Yeah, but
Anyone?
one thing, please be stay active on Slack, as a lot of means the feedback on the form was, what do you expect from us, was to be in an active community, to communicate and interact with each other. So we would like you to take the initiative. We have taken, but we are still waiting for responses. So it would be great if you start your interaction here for making a community an active and a fun place. Any questions?
I think everyone is clear with what they will do, so they'll contact with us via Slack. Shivang is saying something. Shivang.
Yeah, so I was waiting for someone to ask a question in case. So I was thinking about what the future aspects or the future prospects you have for the project that is this project. What do you want to see happen? What do you want to add to this project? What do you want to take out from it, or what do you want to improve in this?
See, may I, Akashdeep? The thing is, actually, we are not looking anything. We are trying to build a project which is a product ready, or it is at its finest. So you can tell about the projects anywhere. And if we all in community feel that like a project should be released in a form of product, so it would be an open source project like VLC and all, where the project is free to use, and uh, user may donate. But even though in that, if we feel some features are there which is novel or unique, so we may think about it and have a separate panel discussion with the active members that are working on those projects, with the core members and higher level authorities.
So basically, Shivang, the entire bigger picture of keep making projects in an open source community is to make good stuff and have fun while doing it. There's the bigger picture, but while doing so, you might see that you are learning stuff. You will get experienced about it. But what about the projects? Now, if the project is really interesting, if it is not like just a experimenting field, if it actually has gotten some results out of it, okay. So in that times we can approach places who are actually looking for solutions, and they will accept it, and they would be greatly honored to get something from a community, right? Because there are teams, there are corporations who do this, but even bigger corporations like Microsoft have understood that open source is a new future. People are actually contributing, people are actually interested in making good stuff together. So this is the bigger picture that we're talking about.
I would like one point to be added that I didn't told in operation and regulation, that if a member is an active contributor and he's been active and following the guideline, he will be promoted, or he will be given a chance to work on higher level features, and he will be invited to the higher authority or a higher team from
Yeah.
everyone, just to maintain our community and follow the guideline, and he should contribute and all. And even in that thing, we will also try to promote every project that comes under Astrosonic, to make it reach make it more more reachable and allow more contributors to add in that. Yeah, that was one point that if you stick long and you're an active contributor, you will be granted higher level access from
Any more
maintaining.
questions?
Yeah, any more questions? Anything open up, as we are also your same age, so there is nothing like we are dominant or like that. We can also miss something which you may ask, and it would be a very relevant point. Anyone? You can even, if you don't want to chat on the talk through voice, you can leave your message on chat, so we can read it and answer to everyone.
Yeah,
So I believe that. Okay, Mahesh, you may continue.
I was just gonna conclude. So yeah, you do it.
Okay,
Wait,
IRS.
yes, IRS has a question that can you give us information about the core team? See,
Okay, so okay, let me continue.
yeah.
IARS visit. So the core team consists of 4 people: me, Mahej, Mohit, and Ankit. We are just third year students of MIT Academy of Engineering. So far we have been working on projects. We have been collaborating, making good stuff by ourselves. But this good stuff was not persisting. It was not actually said good by the common people, or by the entire community, just because we didn't have one. Right? Things were not maintained. So we thought that we can do this good stuff with people around us who are actually looking for such projects. So this is the core team. We are looking forward to add more people to the core team as they keep on contributing, they keep on staying with us. They will also come to the core team. But keep in mind, there is no kind of hierarchy. There's no ups and downs. Everyone is equal over here, and all the people over here are here to contribute and to learn stuff.
And one more thing, the core team will make sure that everyone's contribution are credited to them. So it is not like that you have worked on it and you don't have been credited. Now there is a next question: is there any deep learning project regarding health or environment? Right now we don't have, but if you want to contribute a project or give an idea, you may share us on Slack channel, and you may lead that project for us.
Yeah, Shenas. So the list of projects that we have right now is limited. We agree. But if you have something that can be worked on, it's more than welcome. I mean, not just us, not just the core team, but people from all around who are actually, they're clueless as to what to do with the deep learning skill that they've acquired right now. So they can pretty much contribute to your project, and it will make your project our project. It will be a community effort. So, good things are yet to come when you contribute, when you share ideas with people.
And one more thing I would like to add, our community isn't restricted to a deep learning. You can bring any type of project. It could be related to Java or application based or a cybersecurity project, anything. It could be anything. It isn't like we are only restricted to deep learning or machine learning. Uh, though in our core team, most of the members are from ML and data science. That's why we have those many projects of deep learning and machine learning. But we will be glad if you can bring a variety of projects for making it diverse in the community.
Any more questions? Okay, so I think we should conclude the meeting right now. The people have places to go. But at any time, if you feel like you have any questions, the Slack channel is always open.